What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to MKE MANIACI. And I know y'all see the merch. The merch just came in. Congrats to my boy John Cena on 20 years in the WWE, man. So listen, today we got Prana Productions. Is WWE secretly recreating history? And judging from the thumbnail of it being Austin Theory and John Cena. Austin Theory cosplaying as John Cena at that. You know, I kind of got an idea on what this video is going to be about. And I feel like this is something that's been around for some time, you know, that I've noticed specifically in wrestling for a long time. You know, there was a time I would look at guys like, y'all remember American Alpha, Jason Jordan, Chad Gable. I used to always compare them to Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas, the world's greatest tag team. You know, it was so much similarities. And I feel like it's something that's been around for such a long time. You know, you look at, you know, when I first started watching wrestling, The Rock and Stone Cold, you know, they were the top of the top. And, you know, you look at The Rock, he pretty much became the next Hulk Hogan. And then John Cena ended up becoming the next Rock. So, I mean, we gonna see what this video is all about. Let's not waste no time. Let's get it. Vince sees a young John Cena.
I like the comparisons. I appreciate them, but I'm in my own lane. I'm gonna do things that John Cena's never done.
That's a big talk, Theory. That's a big talk. I mean, John Cena is the thing with John Cena. I'm not gonna you know, doubt Theory, but the thing with John Cena, his talents go beyond World Wrestling Entertainment. He's that household name. You know,
I actually had some success in natural bodybuilding.
I was a bodybuilding champion.
United States champion, getting their first title.
A United States champion.
I think my first connection to wrestling was John Cena.
I could see that. I could see that.
A lot of people say that to me.
It's no secret that the WWE is recreating John Cena with Austin Theory.
It's so weird how much they look alike, you know. And I mean, you know, technically age-wise, it could be possible that Austin Theory is John Cena's son, but that's a conspiracy video for another day.
And because of that comparison, I took a closer look at some of the NXT wrestlers and found some very astonishing similarities, starting with the next Brock Lesnar. Braun Breaker radiates 2002 Brock Lesnar vibes, practically embodying the beast. He's a football player that joined WWE early in his career, dominating everybody in his path due to his massive size difference. Just like Brock Lesnar, he also captured a major title extremely quickly. Braun even sounds relatively similar to Brock. It definitely seems like WWE is replicating him.
I feel like in the case of Braun Breaker and Brock Lesnar, I never really thought to compare the two. I always kind of seen Goldberg, like, I think maybe it's the tattoo. I always kind of seen like a Goldberg like presence in Braun Breaker, but I could definitely see the similarities. I mean, Braun Breaker became NXT champion just a few months after making his NXT 2.0 debut. Brock Lesnar won the WWE championship 4 months after making his WWE debut. You know, the physique is definitely crazy. The background is crazy. Even the mic skills, you know, pretty similar. I know for a fact Braun Breaker is going to be one of the biggest stars. And there was a picture floating around of Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker. And I'm like, we're going to look back on that picture of them in the locker room like, man, yeah, that's where it all started for them.
To Brock, it definitely seems like WWE is replicating him. And the strikingly mirror image-like comparisons don't end there. I found somebody that resembles a young Randy Orton. From the way they wear their sunglasses to the way they button their shirts, the comparison is truly fascinating to look at. Grayson Waller shares the same mannerisms, facial expressions, and even performs an identical finishing move like the RKO.
Why did I not notice this? Why have I never noticed this? Grayson Waller definitely has that arrogance. I remember I used to hate Randy Orton back in like 2000, early 2004, late 03. I just thought he was so cocky. He RKO'd everybody. I mean, he was cool, but just very, very arrogant. He was that guy that you just love to hate. And I think Grayson Waller definitely lets off that same aura about himself. But I never really thought to kind of compare the two. I always kind of, it was like Grayson Waller could be like the next Miz, just, his gift of making people just genuinely not like him. But that's interesting.
Grayson Waller shares the same mannerisms, facial expressions, and even performs an identical finishing move like the RKO. Grayson Waller is the next Randy Orton. Then you've got the next AJ Lee in Roxanne Perez, who wears plaid, which conveniently matches AJ's old attire. They're even video game loving nerds.
Listen,
WWE.
And it's funny because when I first saw Roxy, I'm like, she reminds me so much of AJ Lee. I don't know what it is. She just reminds me a lot of AJ Lee. And I feel, AJ Lee, even though her time at the top in WWE was really short, I feel like she could have really, went down as one of the greatest of all time in the company. But Roxanne, I know, I hope they don't drop the ball on her. I feel like she has a lot of elements to really be a big star in the women's division.
WWE has found its innocent underdog for the women's division.
Yeah.
I'm convinced Carmelo Hayes is Chris Jericho. Just look at this pose that screams Chris Jericho.
Oh, Melo Hayes is Jericho. Now listen, I'm going to tell y'all something. Because y'all going to start to get to know me the more videos I do on this channel. Carmelo Hayes is my favorite wrestler right now in all of WWE right now. I think this guy, Carmelo Hayes, is going to be one of the biggest names in the WWE. WrestleMania main eventer, he's going to be in movies. All the kids going to buy shirts with his face on it. He's going to be that guy. And me personally, I kind of like always seen a little bit of resemblance of, I seen a little bit of John Cena with the ruthless aggression thing. I seen, the confidence of Shawn Michaels. This right here, I could honestly see Jericho in a way. He ain't the biggest guy on the roster, but, it's something about him that, it shows that he a big dog.
Convinced Carmelo Hayes is Chris Jericho. Just look at this pose that
the charisma
Chris Jericho that nobody else does. We haven't seen somebody that can match The Rock's energy until Montez Ford came along.
Okay.
Kurt Angle.
Okay. Gable Steveson and Kurt Angle. That's obvious. This is an interesting one right here. The Rock and Montez Ford. This is another one of my favorites. Behind Carmelo Hayes, I feel Montez Ford is also going to be a huge star. His charisma is just out of this world. His athleticism is out of this world. This man screams. He screams main event. And just that the charisma part, I think, Montez Ford got that. Now The Rock, that's The Rock. That's The Rock, man. But this is actually a really good comparison, because I feel Montez Ford, once the Street Profits are broken up, I'm not wishing for them to break them up right now, but once they do, go their separate ways, no disrespect to Angelo Dawkins, he's an incredible athlete, but I think Montez Ford is definitely going to be, that he's going to be up there. It should be no reason why Montez Ford won't be a guy like, the stature of John Cena one day, or the stature of The Rock one day.
Somebody that can match The Rock's energy until Montez Ford came along. Kurt Angle and Gable Stevenson's WWE origin stories are exactly the same. Cora Jade defines edginess the same way Lita did in the early 2000s.
I can see
that. And even before releasing him, Harper was following the same.
Harlan and Batista. It's interesting, man. That is very interesting.
Early 2000s. And even before releasing him, Harper was following the same path as Batista in the beginning of his career with WWE. Are these all coincidences, or is the WWE secretly recreating history? The truth is, it's always been happening.
The 20 glorious pythons of the superstar will prevail.
Star Billy Graham. Good artist copy. Great artist steal. Pablo Picasso. I honestly want to say this. Is WWE trying to recreate history? I feel in a way, yeah. I feel, they look at, you got to look at the successes of guys like Batista, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, John Cena. Clearly they did something right with them. Before them, you got to look at the successes of guys like The Undertaker, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, The Rock, Stone Cold. Before them, guys like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage, Andre the Giant. You know, you can constantly go back. Like, I feel like to some extent, even though it's kind of scary similar how some of these gimmicks, some of these guys even look like, you know, the guys from the past. I feel like it's all about strategy, and I feel like it's always been there, and it's never gonna go away. You know, there's gonna be guys after Austin Theory that we're gonna be like, oh, he's gonna be the next Austin Theory.
Make no mistake about it, Austin Theory is stealing from one of the best to ever lace up a pair of
And it's
boots.
funny, my bad for pausing it, but it's a reaction video, man. Now listen, this past Monday on Raw, it was something about Austin Theory. Looking at him, I'm like, is he really going to be the next John Cena, or is he going to be the next Miz? It's something about Austin Theory that really screams a lot of similarities to the Miz in a way. I don't know if that's just me.
Austin Theory is stealing from one of the best to ever lace up a pair of boots. But there's nothing wrong about that. You've got to realize that there was a John Cena before John Cena, and his name is Hulk Hogan. They were both the top stars of their generations, and they were the ultimate baby faces, as it was impossible for them to do wrong. The children and the families adored each respective superstar, and both men demonstrated superhuman strength and survived insurmountable odds. John Cena portrayed the Hulk Hogan character. Meanwhile, that character wasn't Hogan's unique creation to begin with. Before Hulk Hogan, it was superstar Billy Graham's persona. His 24-inch Python catchphrase was even taken word for word. Hulk Hogan became the next Billy Graham, and that is just one of the many examples. MJF is out here snatching the torch from Ric Flair.
Okay, hold on. MJF looks like The Miz. Hell of a talent, for sure. Ric Flair, it's funny that he brought up Ric Flair, because there's somebody in NXT 2.0 that kind of reminds me a lot of Ric Flair, and his name is Cameron Grimes. I don't know if I'm the only one that sees that, but I can see, you know, in just some of the ways that Cameron Grimes says some things, you know, with a little bit of passion behind his tone and his words, you know, it reminds me so much of Ric Flair.
His arrogant loudmouth to his signature robe, he's undoubtedly taken inspiration from the Nature Boy.
I mean, who would?
Speaking of the Nature Boy, Ric Flair
Buddy
stole
Rogers.
that entire identity and robe from the other Nature Boy before him, Buddy Rogers. On the other hand, Andre the Giant changed the game for all massive 7-footers who joined the business after him. The Big Show did an excellent job at filling in those shoes, but the WWE has been in search of a new giant to take over ever since Big Show hung up those big boots. Omos is the newest experiment after failing with Braun Strowman and the Great Khali. You see, this isn't anything new.
I mean, you know, Andre the Giant, you know, another larger than life. You know, the Big Show definitely did an incredible job with the Giant gimmick. Omos, me personally, I feel like I need to see a little more out of him before, you know, we could say, oh, you know, he's gonna be the next, you know, big guy. You know, look at the Great Khali. Braun Strowman, they had something special with Strowman, but I feel turning Braun Strowman babyface was what really killed his career. That's just my opinion. Like, in my eyes, a giant should not be in the ring dancing, should not be shaking his butt. It's not what a giant does. You gotta have that intimidation factor. They're on the right track right now with Omos. I just hope that they don't, you know, revert him to being a comedy babyface like they did the Great Khali and like they did with Braun Strowman.
With Braun Strowman and the Great Khali. You see, this isn't anything new. Vince McMahon and the WWE have always been doing this. It's not shocking in the slightest. As a matter of fact, it isn't only just professional wrestling. It is everything in the world. Nothing is original. Mark Twain, one of the greatest minds in writing history, makes that very argument. Twain believed that there was no such thing as plagiarism because there is no such thing as originality.
That's real, though.
The kernel, the soul. Let us go further and say the substance, the bulk, the actual and valuable material of all human utterances is plagiarism. Mark Twain.
As Mark Twain eloquently explains, everything is plagiarized. Humans have perpetually taken inspiration from the people before them. whether that be consciously or subconsciously since the beginning of time. It's completely normal. It's the reason why Kobe emulated Michael Jordan's game that brought him so much success. Why TV shows like Family Guy flourished after following the footsteps of the formula that The Simpsons created. And why every other YouTuber is trying to become the next Mr. Beast. WWE is no different. A new class of young talent comes in and Vince McMahon attempts to recreate magic from the past.
I used to also compare Seth Rollins to Edge. Like years ago, I want to say when he first won Money in the Bank, I was like, I see a lot of Edge, you know, just the cowardly champion, all that. Like I saw a lot in Edge. I mean, a lot in Seth Rollins. I compare Edge and Seth Rollins. Yeah.
And Vince McMahon attempts to recreate magic from the past. While he's been able to strike gold in some cases like John Cena and The Big Show, there's been situations where he failed miserably. Alberto Del Rio couldn't be the next JBL despite the fancy car or the rich presentation. Jack Swagger was a Walmart version of Kurt Angle.
Said Walmart version of Kurt Angle. Okay, Alberto Del Rio and JBL, when Alberto first came in, y'all remember Eric Escobar? I think his name was Eric Escobar. He was there for probably like a month, less than a month. You know, I know WWE really wanted that next big Mexican star. He was there. He was paired with like Vicky Guerrero. He was supposed to be at the Bragging Rights pay-per-view. Something, man, but he wasn't there very long. When Alberto Del Rio came in, I was like, you know, I felt like they kind of killing two birds with one stone. I mean, you know, they got the rich guy, JBL personality, you know, also a Mexican star. I was hopeful for Alberto Del Rio, you know, even though he was a little older. I want to say he was a little older than, you know, somebody newer, which is kind of, I feel like what Santos Escobar is going to suffer from. You know, he's almost 40 now. So it's kind of like, man, you know, so much talent. But Kurt Angle and Jack Swagger, you know, the American thing, I saw a little bit Jack Swagger and Kurt Angle. I kind of actually see Chad Gable and Kurt Angle, but now we got Gable Stevenson, so.
The rich presentation. Jack Swagger was a Walmart version of Kurt Angle. Even Roman Reigns had a tough time replacing John Cena, so much so that he was utterly rejected. The issue with
they had to turn Roman heel. Roman was supposed to be the next John Cena. We all saw it. Some people said, oh, the next Batista. No, I saw John Cena. Good-looking guy, athletic, you know, ladies loved him. You know, he had the movie star look. He was going to be the next John Cena. It just did not take off. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And I feel like the point that WWE is getting themselves in, if they shove Austin Theory down the audience's throat, they're going to reject Austin Theory as well.
Placing John Cena, so much so that he was utterly rejected. The issue with these failed experiments was that it didn't feel authentic or convincing. To quote the creative genius again, there's no such thing as originality, just authenticity.
But for me, bullying, my father wasn't in my life. And when I looked at John Cena, it was somebody that was so motivating to me. And as cheesy as it is to a lot of people, this never give up thing meant so much to me.
Because John Cena had such a major impact in Theory's life, the connection between the two just feels so authentic. So much so that I see parallels of similarities and believe Theory has the potential.
I really can't put into words how big of a fan I was of Stone Cold and how big of an influence he was on my career.
You can't deny the fact that ever since taking over the stunner finisher, Kevin Owens does remind you of Stone Cold at least a little bit.
Definitely, as far as, Owens doesn't have a filter on the mic. Similar to Stone Cold.
He is one of my favorites. And then I really did model a great portion of what I was doing after how he had modeled a lot of the game brand.
Cody Rhodes is this generation's Triple H. Everything from his
I like Cody. I really do. He's definitely one of the greatest right now. But Triple H? Next Triple H just because of the sledgehammer thing? I don't think so.
Brand.
Cody Rhodes is this generation's Triple H. Everything from his presentation to his behind-the-scenes aspiration, it reminds me of the game, which Cody admits is something he replicated.
And I'm inspired to be the female version of him. I want people and little girls to feel how Eddie made me feel when I watched wrestling.
Without Eddie Guerrero, there is no Sasha Banks. That is why these authentic connections are so important. When someone makes you feel this passionate about something, there's a great desire to carry on their legacy and introduce it to a new generation of people just like you. The inspirations don't just occur in WWE. We've seen it take place around the rest of the wrestling world.
Well, I'm gonna be a single and a wrestler.
Whether it's AEW...
Yo, is that MJF?
I'm gonna be a single and a wrestler.
Yo.
Whether it's AEW finding the next Goldberg in Wardlow or witnessing a daredevil like Darby Allin
and Jeff Hardy.
Yeah. You see something in all of these guys, and that is passion and authenticity that is needed to succeed.
Because we patterned ourselves after these men. These men are what laid the foundation for all these guys. They're the reason we're here. They are the best.
That is something you can't fake.
I got the chills. I got the chills.
To answer the question of the video, yes, I do think that WWE is recreating history. It's always been happening, and not just in professional wrestling. It's in every aspect of life. It's a beautiful thing to see legacies continue, and with legends like John Cena, The Undertaker, and Triple H stepping away, people are concerned with the future. But I think we're headed towards a new generation. A generation of really talented people, full of passion and authenticity that will remind us of the past while giving their own unique twist to it. I think the future of wrestling is brighter than ever before.
It's so bright, man. You know, I think the roster right now, you know, look at WWE, you look at AEW, you look at any wrestling promotion, I honestly think that we have, as wrestling fans, we got the best talent. No disrespect to those who paved the way, because they're legends. They did their thing in the darkest of days of wrestling. But I feel like we have the most talented crop of guys in wrestling out of any point in history. These guys got it, man. Is WWE secretly recreating history? Link down below in the description for y'all to check this video out with no interruptions in its entirety. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for me if you rock with me. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Thank you for watching MKE Maniaci. I'm out.